capacity.
That's right.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to all of you. Do we have a pointer? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to talk about the German geoportal, which is providing insights into the spatial data infrastructure of Germany. And I'm working at the Federal Agency for Cartography of Germany. So what is the spatial data infrastructure of Germany? Just one brief slide to give you a start off. This is Germany. We got one federation. We got 16 federal states, the Bundesländer, and we got around 14,000 municipalities. And apparently they all have spatial data, spatial information. And the challenge for SDI Germany is to make that available. So we've been working on that project for quite a while, maybe 7 years or 8 years. And I've been here in the last year, and I was also presenting on the Geodatenkatalog-DE project. And at that time I summed up the situation that we then had in Germany as such. It is apparent that we've made a lot of progress over the last years. We have now lots of services and lots of metadata, the entries that have been created and published. We got the Inspire monitoring, we got lots of information about spatial data in Germany, and apparently there's a lot of progress. However, I said in the last year that you can't see it, because in last year, when I was here last year, we did not have a spot or a website where you could search for the spatial data that is contained in the spatial data infrastructure of Germany. And my key point in the last year was that we needed a Geodatenkatalog-DE. It's in brackets here. And now we've been working over the last year, and we have the results that you can now see the progress that we have made in Germany. You can now see what is inside the spatial data infrastructure of Germany. We went online with this geoportal in the March of this year. And I'd like to talk about the geoportal and what it is, the technical architecture, and some of the services we are using. The first point, the key point, that of course the Geodatenkatalog-DE is part of the German SDI architecture, and it relies on the components of that architecture, and it relies on the services that we have. It's nothing new for you at an SDI conference. This is our architectural graphic, and I would like to stress or to make clear that we have one central component in Germany, which is, we call that the GDI-DE, but it's the blue box that I encircled with a red circle. It's our central discovery service where we have all the metadata on the data and services inside, and Geodatenkatalog-DE is essentially just using that to do all the searching and so on. So I want to go into some detail on the Geodatenkatalog. It's this blue box. And apparently the process is that we have local or regional or federal state SDIs, and they all publish their information to their catalogs, and then we have sort of in the little bit more dark gray box a local SDI, and the idea in Germany is very similar to the one in Europe, to harvest all the information, or to cache all the metadata information in one central place, which is the Geodatenkatalog, which is up there. And following this idea of the publish, find, bind paradigm that we all have in SDI, we can now have several applications that will now use the Geodatenkatalog to find something, and then to bind to the information on the service resources that they have found. So this is the basic architecture. Some figures on the Geodatenkatalog. It's the central search engine. I said that it's freely available. There's a URL that's probably somewhere on the Inspire website. Whoever's interested can ask me after the session. It caches around 30 distributed catalogs from Germany. We're now at about 100,000 metadata sets. It's kind of a different approach than the one in Scotland. We started off with describe whatever you have, and that's why there's such a high number. And the interface is CSW AP ISO 0.1, which is also used for the Inspire. Which is also in the Inspire implementing rule. Now, as I said, there can be several geoportals or applications consuming or using that service. One of which is the GeoPortal-DE. It is also another one is the Inspire geoportal, because the blue service box up there is the one that we gave to the Inspire geoportal to search in. What's the purpose of the GeoPortal-DE? I've pointed that already out. We want to find all the spatial datasets and services across administrative levels and domains from Germany. So it's the place where you should find everything. We want to make spatial data infrastructure more transparent and to make progress visible. I started off with this idea. We have a lot of progress, but you can't see it. It should be changed by this portal now. And we want to realize this publish, find, bind pattern. Core functionality would be, or is very common, to search for spatial data sets and services, then to view maps. We have a location search, and one of our ideas was to sort of showcase SDI for decision makers. We put on the starting page some special or featured maps that show why SDI is a good idea. In the following, I want to go into detail for each of these functionalities and show you how we've implemented them. So the first thing, the searching or the finding, this is our interface. We've got a simple search field where you can enter what you are searching for. When you do that, you get your results. It's all pretty straightforward. On the left side, I forgot to say, we have some filters, and one of which is one filter is an Inspire filter. So in the portal, you can actually get a search result and then click on the filter checkbox to find all the data sets or services that have been identified relevant for Inspire. How do we do this? We generate an index from our central discovery service, and the data model that we're using to generate the index from is the CSW API ISO 1.0. The index itself has a proper or another data structure, but we're working on the original harvested CSW data model. One of the reasons we're using the index is that we're then free to do some pre-processing to make the data, to flatten the data a bit, the ISO API, the API ISO, the 0.1 data structure. And especially we're using this step to pre-process the data service coupling, so that we find out which data set is being serviced by which service. I said that. In order to provide that search service, we're making use of the Apache Solr library, which is an open source framework for generating these fast indexes that you can quickly search in. Right, back to our search results. I said we wanted to implement the publish, find, bind pattern. So we have in the search results of the portal, we have the possibility to bind to one of the services, to one of the WMS services that we found. You can click on a button which says show in map. When you do that, you can open one of the services that you found. How do we do this, or what's interesting for you here? We bind to the services directly from the metadata. We don't do any service registration in the portal. So we're sort of working on the only on the content from the central discovery service. And we have three default base maps in the viewer. And for that, for the standard projection system, which is UTM-32, we're using the web map tile service in the RESTful profile, and for the other projections that you would like to have, we're offering web map services. 2. These are implemented with Esri ArcGIS server technology. Okay, so these are the, we now completed the publish, find, bind thing. Then we also have a simple feature or location search. You can search in addresses and geographical names from Germany. We implemented a live suggest functionality, and for this thing we've decided to use a HTTP JSON interface, a GeoJSON interface, which we talk immediately to via HTTP, and we're using an Apache Lucene framework for this, because the use case was really just to use that service in the portal. There wasn't really any need for interoperability here, because the service unfortunately isn't free yet. The last functionality I'd like to show is our featured maps, which are supposed to showcase our SDI work. These are just web map context documents, really, which combine map layers from different sources, from different institutions, mostly at the federal level, to interesting map combinations. We have 8 featured maps. One is on the wind energy that is already produced in Germany, and combined with a layer which shows the wind energy potential. Then we have a noise map and so on. Some interesting topics that you can give information about with SDI technology. We cache these featured maps locally on our GeoPortal servers, in order to have a good performance and to be independent of the different data providers. And for the caching, we use the map proxy, which is an open source software library. All right. Just one brief overview of our system architecture. We can read that from the top to the bottom. On the top we have our web client, and which is contained within a content management system that again contains some geoclients, which then asks the different services. We've talked about on the right side about the base maps that we talk to using WMTS and WMS. Then we had our place search, which we talk to via direct HTTP. Then the most important component, the geodata search, we set up that Apache Solar index. But important here again, the blue box, we're searching within the central discovery service, and this central discovery service is also offered to the Inspire GeoPortal as a CSW interface. And finally, we have some featured maps to show why SDI is a good thing, and we're talking to them using WMS. Which software did we use? This slide on the software stack. It's mostly open source software. The only software that is proprietary is the software we're using for the content management system, and that is called Government Site Builder, and is used throughout the public administration at the federal level. So this is why we use that. All the other components, I'm not going to go into detail, but they're on the slide. You can see what they are. So to sum up my little presentation of our Geoportal-DE, has the purpose of this Geoportal-DE, has it been served? The first thing that we wanted to do is that we wanted to find everything that was in the German SDI. We've done that because we're searching within the central discovery service, so we can find everything that's contained in there. We wanted to make the whole German SDI a little bit more transparent and to make the progress that we've made over the last year visible. I think we did. You can now search in this portal and you can find around 5,700 records when you search for maps. These are either WMS services or layers of WMS services, depends. And you got a very high number of datasets that have just been described. We also made transparent which datasets are being served to Inspire. We've got this filter implemented there, and you can see which datasets have been identified. And we realized the publish, find, bind pattern. There is no specific service registration in the portal, but we're using our central service. One thing that we found, and which is the main task for the future, is the metadata that is within the central discovery service. In many cases needs to be quality assured. We didn't really have much time to do this in the first phase, which will be the focus point for further development to make the metadata we're searching in and we have in German SDI to make them have a higher quality. That would be it. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Do we have any comments? Questions? Anders.
Yes, thank you. My name is Anders Friis Christensen from the National Survey and Cadastre. I would like to ask about the bind process that you described. Neither the standard, the metadata standard, or the Inspire guidelines or the metadata regulation are very strict on this online resource. Do you do any additional requirements or enforcing that property is enables you to bind to the specific services?
Mm-hmm. I thought that this question would come, so I prepared a slide. We don't really have a regulation on that. We've got within German SDI, we've got a convention which says, please, if you have the online resource for your service, put it into one of these XPaths. And the one which is one of the XPaths in the metadata structure. And the one on top is the one that is also being recommended by the Inspire technical guidance for metadata. And it's the one we're using first. So if we have something in there, we're following that XPath. But actually, this process, the binding to the services that we don't previously know, is sort of where we've got the most problems, because in many cases the conventions we made are not yet adhered to, so they don't. You don't have the online resource in that XPath, but a PDF document describing what you're not allowed to do. So in that case, at the moment we get a server exception or an exception in the client. What we're going to do now is to check that before. Yeah, but it's a big problem that there is sort of only the recommendation to put it in there, but not really an obligation.
Yeah.
Maybe I am mistaken, but I haven't seen any WFS on your slide. Maybe I am mistaken or not. There are not WFS. Any plans for the future on this? Any comments on implementation framework?
Mm-hmm.
Or?
Yeah. You're right, we do not have any WFS client functionality. We focus on the view and the discovery service. What we're going to do until autumn is at least to have the possibility to select via a filter, which you have in the search interface, to filter all the WFSs that there are. That's sort of the thing what we were planning for the short term, and for the longer term, we would then like to also implement the stuff that's in the technical guidance for the Inspire download services. That'll probably be over the coming year.
Can I have, I think we have still some time. I have the last 2 points that you had on your slide in your conclusions. You were saying there is no registration for the services, but I noticed you access about 30 distributed catalogs. How do you get the information about the catalogs, how to access them, and how do you maintain those links, let's say?
Okay. I distinguish clearly between the discovery service, which is the place where everything has to be registered at, and the portal.
Right.
And the portal is plainly using the discovery service. So it's right that the central discovery service, that there is a process that you come into that. How is that? I think it's via...
Is that a part of the next presentation?
No, it's
probably
not.
To Andreas, or no? Can you put the...
So we have a system of catalogs, and on top there's a central catalog service, and this harvests the other catalogs. So this is why all metadata come together at one point in Germany.
I was meaning how in the first place you get the information about the catalogs themselves, the other catalogs. You need the endpoints, how to link to them. Do they send to you by email, or?
This is by email. These are about 20 or 30 catalogs involved in this. This is done by email.
Okay. And the last thing is about the quality of metadata. You said, can you give us some examples of the quality issues that you have been faced with and you will try to tackle in the future?
Yeah, one of the main problem was this binding to the services. So you find the WMS service and you want to show it in the map. Within the XPath that we expect the online resource to be in, there wouldn't be it. Okay. There would be something else. That's the main problem. Also, sometimes there's a resolution tag where you can describe the resolution of your dataset or service, especially for the services. They appear not always really to be right. But in the next phase we'll really focus on this problem with the WMS online resources in the metadata.
Okay. Thank you very much then. Okay.